Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And once again, welcome on a new episode of Youth Matters with me, your host, Sakina Habib. If we talk about the youth today, the challenges that, as youths we are facing, youth today face significant struggles related to mental health and religious identity. When it comes to mental health, many young individuals experience anxiety, depression, and stress, exacerbated by social media, academic pressures, and economic uncertainties. The prevalence of mental health issues among the youth is alarming, with reports indicating that a substantial percentage of young people feel overwhelmed or hopeless. When it comes to the religious identity, in terms of religious struggles, youth often grapple with finding their identity amidst diverse beliefs and societal expectations. And this can lead to conflicts between traditional values and modern perspectives, contributing to feelings of isolation or disconnection from their communities. Now, today's program, we will be discussing about both the aspects, religious as well as the mental health aspects, about the struggles of youth today in modern age, day and time. And also, I want to just bring in about the importance of Bibi Fatima Zahra salamullahi alaiha, that how as an 18-year-old, she went through so much, right? She went through a lot of challenges, and she went through a trauma as well. But what was her secret of overcoming all those challenges as a youth, because she was also only 18 years old? And there's a beautiful hadith that I want to share. It's by Arif Kamil, Ayatullah Sheikh Muhammad Ali Shah Abadi. And it's a beautiful one in Urdu, so I'm just going to mention it. He says कि दीन की बुनियाद फातिमा सलामुल्लाहि अलैहा की मोहब्बत है और इस्लाम की बुनियाद फातिमा के दुश्मनों से बेजारी है. जिसने फातिमा से मोहब्बत की और इनके दुश्मनों से बुग़्ज़ रखा वही मुसलमान है. And if you also know, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is reported to have said, Fatima is a part of me. Whoever angers her angers me. So the question over here is that what was the speciality about this woman? This lady was very special because Allah's satisfaction and anger are dependent on her satisfaction and anger. And she was the secret of all hidden knowledge. And she was actually a guide to all of our imams. So even when our imams had any doubts or masalas, they used to always return and do their rujur back to their mother, Bibi Fatima Zahra salamullahi alaiha. So this lady is an inspiration, a source of inspiration for us, because she said that if you have any sort of depression in life or anxiety, or if you're going through anything, just be very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And she used to say, do that tasbih also, right? All the time. And it really has a good healing power to it. Now, without much further ado, I would like to move on to our conversation today. I'll be joined once again by our dearest sister, whom we had last week as well, Sister Alima Fatima Naqwi. And indeed, it was a very wonderful discussion that we had last week with her, and she really shared a lot of points from her experiences, her life experiences, from her personal reflections, as well as bringing a lot about the historical context of Bibi Fatima Zahra salamullahi alaiha. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Alima? Hope you're well, inshallah.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well. How are you, sister?
I'm good. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much once again for joining me, Alima. And today's topic is a very good one, I believe. And I believe that, we can discuss so much within this topic. So hopefully we can touch upon a lot of aspects, inshallah, within the given time. So, Alima, I want to first start off with question one, which is that what are the most common challenges that, according to you, are we facing today as youths? If you could perhaps list them and share your viewpoints on that.
Um, of course, we're facing many challenges. That's like, as the as we get more modern in age, the challenges kind of increase as the years come. But
Mm-hmm.
at number one, I think we have peer pressure and societal expectations. Pressure to do what everyone else is doing, and a fear of making your own path because you're expected to conform to society's norms. And
Right.
when in reality, a lot of other people have like different approaches to their goals and such. So
Yeah.
these things are especially difficult. And along with peer pressure, when growing up in a modern society like the West, growing up in the West, distractions and fitnas of that modern society are bound to affect youth,
Mm.
especially. Minds are fresh and easy to mold at those
All
times.
right.
Um, Other challenges include conflicts with families, then uncertainty about one's future, one's purpose, mental issues, neurological disorders also are a great challenge in today's society.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, getting
Right.
into detail on those, I think all of these put together have a great effect on mental health. And mental health, um, obviously, physical and mental health both matter when making a person. So,
Right.
with mental health being affected, that one side being so affected by all of these challenges creates a great barrier in a person's potential and their
Mm.
ability to do a lot of things. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, you're right. And especially, I think when it comes to our mental health, like I feel that mental health is automatically connected to our spirituality as well. Because when your mental health is low, then automatically your spirituality also goes low because, you're like thinking that, oh, why am I having these negative vibes? And I'm feeling so isolated and depressed. I don't want to, talk to anybody. I don't want to hang out with anybody. And, you just sort of corner yourself, So in that state, you also somehow forget that, God is there for you and that He never will
Mm-hmm.
ever leave you on your own because, He takes care of you. He loves you more than anybody. So, He's watching over you. I think that is something that should click our minds, that we're not on our own, we're not alone, and that God is there. And so one needs to have that firm faith and belief, which I feel that as a youth, sometimes you forget, as you said, because of the distractions that exist on a daily basis. And that really, triggers us and pulls us into that, what do you say, that black hole of, a lot of uncertainties
Yeah.
and doubts. Yeah, so I think absolutely you've mentioned good ones over there. Now, when I want to talk about the societal changes, so let's get into there. That how do societal changes, meaning the pressure of expectation from people, such as peer pressure, also as you mentioned, affect our ability to practice our faith openly? Because sometimes we tend to shy away and we feel like we're not fitting in well, in a group of friends or circle because of sometimes our faith, because we don't feel like we're accepted, for example, or like we're undervalued, So, what are your views and what are your thoughts on this? That how do these societal changes affect our ability to practice our faith openly?
Um, I think we get affected in like two ways. In the West, Muslims are influenced obviously by school or uni or at the workplace. They're trying to fit in with everyone else while
Mm-hmm.
also practicing Islam. And
Yeah.
usually, for most Muslims in the West, that's just like talking and acting how everybody
Yeah.
else is, but you're wearing the hijab and you're praying on time maybe. And
Yeah.
but later you'll be going to a party because everyone's going and you're invited.
Yeah.
You have to go. It's a
True.
societal pressure. So
Mm, true.
But you know a person by the people they surround themselves with. So people who obviously surround themselves with good influences might be better off in such situations. Then there's
Right.
also another side to this when you're trying to practice Islam to the best of your ability, but there are hindrances because, for example, you took a break from work to pray on time, but your supervisor wasn't happy with that. He says you're behind on work, you're this, you're that, and it becomes hard to balance your priorities in the end. You have to make a living, but you also want to um, practice Islam to the best of your ability. So
Right.
that's a difficulty that we face in the West. Now, an opposite way that I think affects a lot of youth, especially, is
Yeah.
when we're in more Islamic environments. But the
Okay.
pressure on practicing religion is kind of extreme. Do this, do that, don't do that. That's makruh. That's frowned upon. That's haram. And then without explaining why to a lot of youth, so without the why, the reasoning, the logic, it's difficult to follow on those rules, and you kind of don't want to either. You're like, why should I do this if you don't have like a good reason behind it? And a lot of people don't have the ability to explain the reason
Yeah.
behind certain practices or rules. So we
True.
know that there's wisdom in all of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rules, and we've been told to use our intelligence to question things and find evidences and proofs for our beliefs. Because following a religion without insight and knowledge of it is worthless overall. So there's
Mm.
that as well. You have
Right.
to.
Yeah, so I like the practical example that you gave about praying namaz, for example. So like, yeah, in the work area, for example, it's namaz time, and you've got friends who are like maybe not Muslim, they're from the other religion, and now you have to make time for namaz, on your own. So in
Yeah.
the beginning, I guess like initially it's a bit difficult, to like let everybody know that, you need that time for your namaz and stuff. But then some of them can be pretty open minded as well, and they understand. And so they say, yeah, like it's okay. But I as a university student, sometimes I think, or as a college student, I think that's where it gets quite more difficult and challenging, because at work at least you have like mature people who are like adults, and they understand at that stage
Yeah.
of their lives, right? But then when you're in like high school and stuff like that, so the mindset is different, because you've got like a group
Absolutely.
of friends who have a different mindset, obviously. And then probably they will not like they will probably like see you, oh, she's so weird, like she's like such a weirdo, like going praying namaz and stuff like that, when we can actually have fun and do some sort of an activity, right? So I think that
Absolutely.
is the stage in your life where you have to make the decision now, that am I doing this for Allah, or am I doing this to please people? And I think from that point, if your foundation is like strong, and like you have an opinionated mindset. I mean, not in a wrong way, but like a very strong mindset, that I'm doing this because there exists a goodness behind this. So that you're on the right path, right? And if
Yes.
your mind and heart are like at that battle, and you can't make up a decision, then that you're obviously deviated, you're getting deviated into the distractions of your friends and stuff like that. So what other examples do you think can we find that really take away those core values from us sometimes, and they tend to like distract us on a daily basis? I mean, if you could just share, and also what solutions can we find?
Um, Examples of distractions.
Yeah.
Um,
So
I'd
like
say
you
that
mentioned about the office
obviously
scene, for example. Yeah.
social media is the biggest distraction that we have around right
Yeah.
now.
Absolutely.
And obviously, there are various kinds of media, but sometimes a lot of Muslim youth live kind of obviously they have different lives from their peers. Not allowed to go out that much, or you can't. You have to keep in mind mehram and na mehram and these things. So on
Hmm.
media, you'll see a lot of people going out and living their lives and having like loads of fun, and you'll be like, I want to be doing those things too. They say sweet 16s and like 17s, these are the years to like your golden years, etc. And
Right.
a lot of teens will feel that it's unfair that we don't get to do these things that our friends get to do, and
Yeah.
that actually creates. I haven't experienced myself. I like living at home, and I can't imagine why anybody would want to go out. But
Yeah.
my friends often say that it's not fair that our other friends get to do this and that, and we have to stay at home. And I
Right.
think often that
Hmm.
a
So
lot of
I guess it's also in our upbringing, I feel. I think,
yeah,
if your
absolutely,
like if your upbringing is done like in the right way, for example, then
yeah,
you wouldn't even like feel like going out too much into these parties and
yeah,
hanging out
yeah.
and doing. So yeah, it depends on the person. Like it's an individual thing, I feel.
Yeah, that's the point I was gonna get to, where it really depends on like how you've been raised, absolutely, because children who feel they need to fit in more and they need to do these things with their peers, or they'll get left out, that feeling of getting left out and
Exactly. Yeah.
losing your friends and missing out on a lot of things, that
Yeah.
uh, affects this insecurity inside them that's been there since like childhood, and
Right.
they haven't been making the right friends as they've been growing up either. So, and sometimes it's parents' faults as well for wanting to like over coddle your child. If you have good friends, then you should arrange certain ways for your child to have fun in halal ways.
Mhm.
That's possible too.
Yeah.
But if you keep creating boundaries over boundaries, your child will want to rebel at some point,
Rebel.
and
Very
then
good. Yeah, that's
the
a good point. Yeah.
consequences of that will be
Yes,
worse than having let him
I
go
have
before.
seen that a lot, and in fact, it used to even happen during my school days and stuff. That there were like a
Mm.
couple of friends who seemed very religious on the outside, and because probably their parents used to set a lot of boundaries. Oh, you can't go over, you can't spend time at your friend's place, you can't do this, you can't do that. No social media accounts at all. But then behind the scenes, there was a lot that was happening.
A lot goes
And then
on.
yeah, a lot goes on, and then you get surprised, like, whoa, look at this person, like they're doing so much worse. So
Yeah,
as parents also, we need to be very careful about where, what type of a direction are we setting for the children, so that they don't rebel, because yes, there is always a stage of rebelling that happens during the teen years or during the youth phase. If you suppress something for too long, what happens? It finally bounces, right?
yeah, first.
So exactly, yeah. So as you said, so rather, keep it like, keep the balance in such a way that you're allowing things to your children, you're letting them have fun as well, you're letting them enjoy, but like you also know what are they doing, and at the same time you set like a boundary which is like not very how do I say it? Like not very harsh on them, you know?
It's not
So
overbearing.
exactly, it's not overbearing for the person. So I think, yeah, that's an important one. We have to do that, true. What about if we talk about the decline in religious participation? Yeah, I like this question. So, like, how does the decline in religious participation among young adults impact their mental health? I know a lot of people, a lot of youngsters who do not wish to go to the mosque, for example. They wish to stay back home. And sometimes the reasons are very logical, that we've got our homeworks, we've got our assignments, we've got the a test or exam next day at school, and I had a very long, rough, exhausting day, and I just want to stay in today, or just, unwind myself, right? So sometimes, parents understand and they say, yeah, it's okay, no problem. but what are your viewpoints in this? Like, do you think that, one should really be very strict in such a scenario, like you need to attend mosque like every single day, or like when it's like, certain occasions, like the important ones, then should a child attend, a youth should attend, or shall we instill, those spiritual values from the very beginning, in understanding that, it is important to attend mosque and all these lectures, but once in a while you can, sort of bunk or skip or whatever you want to say, because you've got some important things on the side. So what are your viewpoints on this?
Um, Without participating in religious activities and practices, eventually, consistently not participating, like every time your
Mm,
parents are going to a majlis, you've made the excuse of exams and other things, and you've stayed at home. Um, Doing that consistently will lead to a gap between you and your religion, and eventually you'll succumb to fitna and the distractions around you, and that will be essentially your fault. You'll become a slave to your nafs, and if you continue going down that path, it'll feel like a black hole from which you can't escape. But obviously, as you said, there are situations where often they don't feel like going, or usually it's because um, they don't understand something and they don't see any point of being there if they don't understand what they're going for. So a lot of children will, youths will even say that I don't understand the lecturer at the majalis, don't know what he's going on about, and that's the parents' fault for not teaching them at a younger age, making them understand such concepts. And then if they force their children to go, those kids will develop a hatred. Um, they'll feel the same thing. They'll feel like the parents are being extra overbearing and they're forcing them to go to this and that while they have no understanding of
mm,
such things. So
right.
it's important to,
Yeah, but sometimes we see
mm,
that also, like, English majalises do get arranged for, like separate sessions or separate English majalises,
yeah,
are organized for these youngsters. But then, somebody said this, and I want to say it on TV today. Somebody said, "How is it possible that, the youths complain that they can't understand anything in Urdu, but they understand all the Bollywood movies? I mean, they have all the information. They can understand
yeah,
what goes
yeah,
on the dramas and everything. So that doesn't make sense, right? I mean, somebody actually said that. Okay, so I think it's the topics sometimes, the and who the scholars are. It highly also
yeah,
depends,
absolutely.
like, yeah, that at what stage are the scholars like getting into, to talk to these individuals. Because look, if someone's just going to be very authoritative and, like, just dictating things, like, you need to pray namaz, and, you need to do
Yeah,
salah, som, this, that, and like everything is haram, and, this is like extremist. It becomes, when things get really extremist, then obviously nobody is going to get
yeah,
attracted
nobody,
to come. Exactly, people will run away. So you have to, think of a concept in such a way as to get the attention of the youths, and, you sort of mold them in such a way as to finding that beauty in that thing rather than enforcing it on them, right? So this, I think, is a very important key for the of, like, for those people who even lecture at mosques sometimes, not to make it very monotonous and boring. Because I do sometimes hear feedback from people, for example, okay, I'm just saying, like, if it's a very renowned scholar or someone, and, they start saying that, your women are not doing hijab, and, you have no right to come to the mosque as well, because, you should first go and look at your women out at home. They're not covering themselves. What gives you the right to come to the mosque? So I've heard these kind of statements as well, and they're like an ultimate put off, because one would
abs-
think, like, I am coming at least here for with a clear conscience, with good intentions, and just making these sort of judgments about someone's character or someone's behavior is not right. And even if a youth wants to, for example, maybe a youth wishes to volunteer in something, I've seen this also. A youth wishes to volunteer in something. Maybe he wants to recite an azan or ikama in the mosque, but that person is wearing, like, let's say casuals, like perhaps jeans or t-shirt, shirt, something. And then someone will literally, like the head of the mosque or like an elder would come and say that no, you can't recite the azan or ikama because look at what you're wearing. So I can't let you do
Yeah.
that. So what would happen in such a situation is that that person will never again come and recite the azan and ikama. They would never do it in their lives again because of the discouragement and the mentality, the narrow mindedness. So these are
Absolutely.
all real things that are taking place. By the way, I have heard these statements, I have witnessed, I've seen it, and
Mm,
so that's why
definitely.
yeah, I'm putting it out forward because this is exactly what puts down the youth then in participating in these our religious gatherings. And also we shouldn't be like surprised that why are the people not getting interested into coming into mosque and everything. It's because of sometimes these are the reasons, you know
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Alima, what are your what yeah, do you want to add something? I'd be happy to know.
Yeah, I agree with a lot about the judgment that youth obviously face because it's a big generation gap as well. So some things it's easier to talk to people who are more your age. So um,
Yeah.
and choosing topics that are more relative to um, youths as well, like what they're going through, and discussing that with them
Right.
is better in many ways because obviously you're addressing situations that they're having problems with, and when they see that um, your advice for their situations actually works, they'll want to know more about Islam in that way as well. Um,
Right.
Another thing is that in the UK, actually, I've noticed that
Yeah.
most people are pretty open minded and encouraging towards youth, at least in the places that I've been. But still, there are a lot of my friends who don't want to go. They don't want to. Um, a lot of people my age, they still don't want to participate in any of these things, and I think
Mhm.
that's related to mental health in the family conflict sort of way. In the
Yeah.
same way in which we've said that family can be overbearing and then over pressurizing to do this and do that and participate in this. Everyone else your age is um, going to the majalis and understanding this and that, and you're not keeping up. And then a sort of guilt stops them from going as well. They don't feel
Right.
like they're spiritual enough, they're not religious enough, they don't, and that guilt sort of makes you want to stay at home as well. Like in the majalis, everyone's crying, and you feel like, oh, I'm not feeling anything here. That guilt
Hmm.
also keeps you at home.
Yeah. True. And I feel like one sincerity, like khulus dil, is very important. If your intentions
Agree.
are clear, you're doing this for God, you're doing this for Ahlul Bayt. They accept it wholeheartedly. There are people who go to mosque, but then they're doing a lot more behind the scenes. Like for example, they're gossiping, they're doing riba, backbiting, they're hurting people's feelings. They don't even realize the kind of words that they're using. Like their akhlaq is maybe very bad. What's the point of this? You are just showing off that you're a good person because you're a spiritual person on the outside, but maybe at home the way your rawaya is with your own family members is probably not acceptable. So then I don't think such people should have any right to like judge other people and pass their comments
Absolutely.
by
It's very hypocritical.
undervaluing their spirituality, because just by not going to the mosque also does not mean that a person is, for example, an atheist or doesn't have any love for the Ahlul Bayt. That it doesn't mean, like, I mean, I know some people who literally like categorize you, oh, because you don't go to mosque, you don't have any love for the Ahlul Bayt in your heart. You're an atheist. I don't know what sort of comments. And if you give them any logical reason as well, they would never understand it, and they would always pinpoint at your negatives all the time. And especially as youths, because you've got a lot of academic pressure at that time.
Yeah.
Your mindset is like towards academics at that time, and so one can just do the best that they can. So nobody should come and pressure you so much. You can only do how much you can. I'm saying this because I went through this situation as well during my teen years once upon a time. And my focus was completely on career and everything. So I used to go to mosque, but then there were times when I couldn't make it. I used to get exhausted and everything. And then there were some very close people who used to literally attack on my spirituality, and they used to tell me these kind of things, that you've got no love in your heart for God and for Ahlul Bayt and all these kind of things. But that actually never stopped me. On the contrary, it helped me become more close to God. Um, because I had so much faith in God, I knew that this is just like a malicious attack that's coming from people, and it should not affect me in any way. So, on the contrary, I used to recite Zarat Ashura on a daily basis to just protect me from these people. And Alhamdulillah, it really worked. I mean, um, those were hard days, but then I came out of it, Alhamdulillah. So it's very strong. It's very important to be strong in such situations, mentally as well as spiritually.
Absolutely.
It's very important. Let's talk about the social media effect. The social media usage effect. How does it affect the well being of young adults? What do you think?
Social media, well, we know that it's addictive, no doubt. Um, it lessens attention span and increases anxiety. Um, it is ultimately a weapon to destroy potential. You get
Right.
lost in it and lose sight of what your goals were, essentially. But obviously, there are pros and cons of everything. In the hands of intelligent and reasonable people, social media is a useful weapon, spreading news and messages and the truth everywhere. So it's important to know, to understand your own level of consumption of social media and what it's doing to you, because there's obviously a lot of garbage, essentially, and there's a lot of good stuff out there too. So what you're consuming is important. Mm, most of the time, like I said before, after using social media, we'll look at other people's lives and compare them to ours, and that comparison creates um, depression in a lot of people, creates jealousy and other negative feelings, and it's important to overcome that and limit your social media time, maybe if it's affecting you a lot. But yeah, to the core of it all, I think understanding Islam and understanding your purpose and your goals and focusing on bettering yourself is the way to um, lessen all of this negativity that's in your environment right now. And yeah.
Right, absolutely. So when it comes to social media, I think it's also about the kind of people that you're following on your algorithm. Um, so because that automatically will have an influence effect on your mindset, on your
Influence.
thoughts, on the way you talk, on the way you speak with people, everything, on the way you dress up. So like people also take inspirations from certain people on how they dress up. So like it's important to know. That the what kind of an influencer am I following on Instagram? Are they like what do you say, positive minded people? Are they passing on the right message, or is it just like a fakeness? We need to decipher between if it's too fake or is it real or not? So yeah, those are some important things. And as you said, time limit to monitor and limit how much of your social media are you using. We've got so many apps right now, and even someone like me, I mean, I'm just half of the time like swapping between Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, so YouTube, just playing around all the time. So like one needs to really like set a boundary in that, just for give time to an app, and then take a break, and try to focus on other things that exist in life, around you. So you've got
Absolutely.
to be out of that social media bubble. In the past, I mean, this thing wasn't there, and right now I think this is the biggest challenge really for all of us, that social media is in our hands, and we can't live without it because our work relies on it,
Absolutely.
our source of information relies on it. If one wants to Google up anything, they would just straight head up and ask Google the question, or yeah, these kind of things exist. Yeah, so we're facing a lot of these challenges. And also when it comes to, for example, our homeworks and assignments, earlier we used to use our brains for everything, right? There was no help. There were only like
And now,
physical tutors to help you out. And your parents. But now you can just Google everything. You don't need anybody to
ChatGPT.
do it.
Yeah,
You've
that's
got
that.
all the new, websites. You can just access how to write a proper, perfect essay. Just put up the topic and it's out. Bam, like it's there. You don't need to put in any effort. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the challenges are really there today. But Alhamdulillah. Okay, since it is the Ayam Fatimiyya still going on, Alima, I just want to touch on the life example of Bibi Fatima Zahra, salamullahi alaiha. Can you narrate an incident or two where we find her standing strong in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, withholding the principles of Islam? I mean, this lady, she went through a traumatic phase in her life. She was 18 years old. Look at the 18-year-olds today, and when we read about some of the ahadiths and riwayas, they say that her hair had turned white. She became a zaifa in this age. So how did she, like, what made her become so metaphorically old? What were the pressures at that time for her? What were the troubling challenges for her during her time?
Many challenges arose in Hazrat Fatima Salam Alaihi's lifetime, and as you said before, she was as young as the youth of today are, and yet an inspiration to all mankind. Um, there are many incidents showcasing her strength and character um, at in the beginning while she was younger and with her father. Obviously, the persecution of Muslims was ongoing, and at that time she supported her father and stood firmly by him, supporting him emotionally. She was given the title, as we said before, mother of her father, and she took on his burdens as if they were her own. And then later, after her father's death, she defended her husband's rights when he was denied being the Khalifa. She fearlessly advocated for his rights in front of the people, emphasizing everything that her father said, that her father left. Because people after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's death, um, they didn't give any importance to her rights and what her father left her. After the Prophet's death, they made their own rules and whatnot. A great disrespect to the Ahlul Bayt that the Rasulullah left for them. And even at her time of death, Hazrat Fatma, she delivered a powerful sermon. She addressed the people, the importance of faith, justice, and righteousness. She uh, was courageous in every part of her life, and she raised her children to be courageous. At her time of death, she uh, well, moments before her death, when they were burning her house down, her door down, she still stood courageously in the face of that, even. So she's a great example for us all, and her obviously this showcases her mentality. It was unbreakable in that sort of way. She was an amazing woman and overall an amazing role model for everyone, men and women in this world.
Right. So especially when she had to stand in the courtyard and face the oppressors at that time, during her time to claim her haqq for the fadak, right? And when her rights
Absolutely.
were usurped because of the oppressors. And it was so sad that how the oppressors literally they tore that testament, that piece of important paper that her father had written, that this property, this land belonged to her, and they belied her, and they really hurt her in such a way that they made her cry. And for being a woman being insulted like that in front of so many people in a courtyard, as such, that to being the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was definitely a big deal. She was not an ordinary person. She was, the daughter of Bibi Khadija and Rasul Khuda. And she was the wife of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And the fact that these people, disrespected her and, usurped her rights, right? Says a lot. So at that time, she still, what I liked about her is that she protected the wilaya of Imam Ali alayhi salam.
Absolutely.
She did not care about the land and property and whatsoever, because she knew that these are all materialistic things. I mean, if God wants, God can give me so much right now within a second. If I'll just click my fingers, and she can get the gold and everything that she wants. But
Absolutely.
her yeah, her character was laid out more towards protecting the wilayat of Imam Ali alayhi salam, whereby we see that how when they were dragging Imam Ali alayhi salam, how she went and defended him physically, being a woman in that state, and then we also hear that how she was hurt by the oppressors, the fact that they slapped her, the fact that they used some items like whips to slash her, and all of those things, and the fact that she was also expecting Janabe Muhsin alayhi salam, she was expecting. So being in that state itself, that's a very fragile state for a woman to be in. So the fact that she was oppressed and hurt in that state, the fact that she endured all that pain, says a lot about how strong she was as a woman, mentally how strong she was, and religiously her faith was so strong towards Allah, that she had that strong faith and tawakkul towards Allah, that she was doing this for
Wavering.
Allah subhanahu. Yeah. So we see this in her, right? And this is exactly what we discussed today. The religious challenges as well as the mental challenges that our youths are facing today. So look at Bibi Fatima's life. And we see some inspirations from her, that having endured so much pain, this lady was still standing tall, in the mission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She did not just give up like that, right? Okay, so we
Yes,
have come
she.
towards the end. Yes, yes, please continue. We have just almost reached towards the end of the program. I was just about to say that. And if there are any concluding messages that you would like to share with us, Alima, today.
Absolutely, just agreeing with the fact that again she stood for the rights of herself and her family, the Ahlul Bayt, and she said to the people that I am the Prophet's daughter. You think I would go against the commandments, His commandments, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commandments. She was
Right.
absolutely fearless in the face of society and such an aggressive society at that. I mean, in our time, we are in what we call a soft war, where it's more
Mhm.
over on social media and stuff. Obviously, violence and oppression goes on in all over the world, but standing up for our rights is both more difficult and less difficult than it was at that time. At least, we won't straight on be facing
Right.
persecution, that there
Right.
is enough intelligence in the world. There are people, whether they're Muslims or not, who are ready to stand up for the right thing. Like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, what's going on in Palestine. It's not just Muslims supporting that cause. So we're at a more of an advantage than they were. They were Muslim. They didn't have any helpers. They didn't have any. They knew that in the end, their last step in this life was martyrdom, and
Mm.
it's our duty as the Rasulullah's ummah, like the last of his people, and we're awaiting our imam. It's our duty to stand up for the truths of our society, to better ourselves, to take responsibility, and to make the generations, to make our society
Right.
better for the generations to come overall.
Right. Absolutely.
No.
Jazakallah. Thank you so much, Alima, for that wonderful message and advice that you've shared with us. And I would like to thank you for your humble time. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you with me again.
Thank you for inviting me once again. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah. Thank you. Thank you so much, viewers, for tuning on today's program once again. And inshallah, hopefully, uh, we can take a lot of beneficial points from today's conversation as well. With that, I would like to leave you all. Please remember us in duas. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.